my name is Tori.
And I'm Sasha.
And we are here today to talk about the LGBTQ community within school walls.
And by doing so, we've created an open letter for those who are parents, teachers, and children of the LGBTQ community.
Does it get better?
The answer is yes.
It gets better. It really does.
Researchers have pointed at schools as being the most homophobic of all social institutions. Schools resist any effort that might challenge their heterosexist notions on which they operate. We need to start addressing these issues in schools for the sake of the non-LGBTQ and LGBTQ community.
All parents strive to protect and prepare their children for the world around them. With this in mind, what would you tell your future child who just revealed to you that they do not follow gender norms? Dear my future child, my dear child, I have and I always will love you. You continue to make me proud. I just want to remind you, though, that by identifying as LGBTQ, you will be harassed in school twice as much as your peers who do not identify as LGBTQ. You will hear terms like faggot and dyke frequently and often during your school day. You will be 26% more likely to be threatened with a deadly weapon than your peers who do not identify as LGBTQ. You are also 20% more likely to have your property damaged. In studies, 86.2% of your fellow peers who identify as LGBTQ report being verbally harassed, 44% reported being physically harassed, and 22% reported being physically assaulted. Overall, you will be subject to more extreme and persistent violence and harassment in schools. Due to these facts, your school life and grades will be negatively affected. Fear of harassment will lead you to restrict what you say and do in public. Even your male peers who identify as straight will restrict what they say and do in fear of implying a feminine appearance and thus being bullied. You are 33% more likely to miss class and even whole days of school. Your school will be unwilling to attack the problem of LGBTQ bullying by using other means to solve the problem, like making you use a separate entrance and limiting your interactions with students who do not identify as LGBTQ. Schools will become an unsafe and lonely place, which will lead you to be unable to focus in lectures and complete assignments. But this is not all, my child. This violence you experience will be rooted in multiple systems of oppression. Each of your peers who identify as LGBTQ will experience differently because their identity, social position, race, class, gender, and sexuality. But society will lump you all together under the title LGBTQ. Your African American, Latino, and Latina peers who identify as LGBTQ will see violence as a result of them negatively representing their racial communities, a burden white students do not have to carry with them. This is furthered by many offenders using racial slurs along with their LGBTQ bullying. To counter this, African American and Latino gay men often force their emotional and physical beings to contract the idea that they are weak because they are gay, which causes them to act out more than they otherwise would have, and bully others to prove they are powerful and dominant. Also, the connection between LGBTQ hate crimes and bullying and gender will be ignored. Offenders will bully because he's not acting like a boy, she's not acting like a girl. They're doing gender inappropriately. This means your female peers will further be pushed to follow gender norms. Male peers will also further think they need to be manly. All males have female qualities. All women have masculine qualities. Children suppressing these qualities due to fear of being labeled as LGBTQ will cause stress and self-hatred. Because you will all be lumped together under the LGBTQ title, teachers and researchers will not pay attention to the fact that each student internalizes harassment and reacts to bullying differently based on their life experiences. I Identities overlap. No child experiences LGBTQ bullying as an isolated incident. Instead, they experience bullying in relation to race, class, gender, ethnicity, and sexuality.
I always want you to know that as your parent, I am always going to be here for you. If you ever begin to feel like you don't belong or fit in, I want you to come to me. I don't want your youth and bright future to be let go because of depression, exclusion from your peers, bullying, or because of me as your parent. I am doing the best I can to understand the consequences of your identity. This is the part in your life where you get to truly discover who you are as a person, where there are no consequences to who you decide to be. Which is why I don't want you to be part of the 30% that attempt suicide by your early teens, or the greater 20% who attempt suicide in an unsupportive environment. Believe in yourself that you can face these difficult challenges and get through it. My job as your parent is to help you learn your true values and desires in life. By reminding you that you are your own person and having you be aware of certain outcomes will let you continue to deeply think about how taking your own life will impact the ones you love. For my child's teachers, I want my child to feel safe in your classroom. As an educator, you are looking out for my child in the school building. I don't want my child coming home from school feeling discouraged because you failed to recognize their hard work and dedication. I trust that you don't show any discrimination against my child due to class, race, or orientation. However, due to my child's orientation, this is a challenging transition for both of us. When you highlight the importance of suicide in your classroom, I am not there to see how you handle the situation. If you don't normalize it by logistically showing the consequences from bullying, rejection, exclusion, discrimination, it won't create a healthy mindset and experience for my child or any other LGBTQ student. By drawing a casual but direct link between bullying and suicide will encourage any at-risk child to identify as the victim, which increases their suicidal behavior. Is this what you want as a teacher educating my child or any other LGBTQ students? I don't want my child in an environment where this is plausible. How I do things in my household, I focus my parent-child discussions on addressing the anti-LGBTQ bullying, but in a way where I'm educating my child on the consequences, yet not increasing their suicide contagion risk. By suicide contagion risk, I am saying that if any child is seriously depressed or thinking about suicide, other influences such as talking about bullying or posts on the social media may trigger certain emotions and will end by them taking their life. As my child's educator, I hope that you recognize these consequences and will truly make a difference in not only my child's life, but to all LGBTQ students and other teachers who may be conflicted with their own sexual orientation. For all children, I deeply encourage you to familiarize yourself with the Trevor Project. They are a community filled with people who want to help. If you are beginning to feel or have been feeling depressed, discouraged, undermined, and other negative effects on yourself, this organization recognizes these emotions and can say what you need to hear. The resources they overflow with will pull you out of the hole that has slowly pulled you in like quicksand. The people who feel like the other and can finally shift you in the right direction. If you are afraid to contact the Trevor Project, it is okay. There are many other organizations out there who are similar to the Trevor Project. However, if you are troubled by reaching out for help, remember that in order to get better, you must be able to admit and accept who you are as an individual. If you are contemplating suicide, understand that life goes on. It may be rough right now, but a few years from now, things will not be as bad. If you're thinking about suicide, suicide because you are being bullied, please understand that suicide is not the answer. Note that the large majority of people who experience bullying do not think of suicide. Suicide is not a natural response to bullying. Usually, the media emphasizes the details that increase contagion risk. In today's social norm, the social media has brainwashed our minds from retweeting to liking a Facebook post that gives the media a speed that can quickly spread misinformation about suicide death. This type of social media endangers all of us, but especially to those of you who are at risk of attempting suicide. Take control of the media and be responsible. Suicide contagion is reduced when the media reports on suicide is diminished. Remember, the social media does not control you. You are in control of you. Only you can decide what is best for you, and suicide is not the answer. The complexity of bullying and suicide together is overwhelming. If bullying is persistent, it may lead to worse feelings of rejection, isolation, despair, discouragement, as well as to anxiety and depression. These causes lead to suicide behavior, and we must put an end to it. This begins through homes and schools, environments, and within peers. Every day, my child or any other child in the LGBTQ community continues to feel less motivated, inspired, and influenced due to discrimination or orientation. As a parent of an LGBTQ child, recognizing that issues such as bullying and suicide need to be addressed not only in homes but in schools to create a better environment for every student will only lead our nation to a better future. Even becoming comfortable discussing these issues to non-LGBTQ students will only strive for a better community. That way, LGBTQ and non-LGBTQ students and parents may surround each other with dignity to withhold their pride and self-esteem. Also, bullying will decrease exponentially, creating a better school environment for students to learn together and build a better world.
As you experience the school atmosphere of homophobia, your teachers may not be someone you can turn to. Having open LGBTQ teachers are important to your future because not only will they be a role model, but someone that you can look up to for support and guidance. However, you will have few, if any, of these teachers in your school. Some teachers are subject to homophobia housed in schools just as much as you are. This, paired with myths such as gay teachers are more likely to child molest, will lead them to fear of their gender identity and sexual orientation just as much as you will. The harassment and fear will lead them to strict policing of their behaviors to follow what is normal. Also being led down the same tunnel as you of self-hatred, frustration, isolation, and stress. These emotions may affect how they act in the classroom and how well they can teach.
Remember, just because they are your teachers doesn't mean that they don't have feelings too. Always note to yourself that even though the words teacher and student authoritate different roles in a school community, doesn't always necessarily mean that each individual has different thoughts when it comes to your sexual orientation awakening.
This is not the world we have to see our children grow up in. Together, we can make it better.
Why is it important that teachers and schools work to correct these issues?
LGBTQ students deserve an environment where they feel safe and comfortable. Without this, they will be unable to fully embrace education with their full potential and will forever be behind in what they're truly capable of.
Students who do not identify as LGBTQ also benefit from correcting these issues because they will interact and face people who identify as LGBTQ in their future. of the need to feel comfortable with people of all different identities is significant because they should not have to rely on prejudices that are rooted in myths.
Before a teacher can begin building their classroom around LGBTQ inclusive ideas, they must be aware of the circumstances and the students they are working with. An educator who looks at the significance of the desk in their room first sees each student who walks into the room and sits in one of those desks as looking up to you. One child may identify as LGBTQ and be looking for an ally. Another student may show aggression towards LGBTQ ideas, and you are the only one who can correct their misconceptions.
Having children look up to you puts your role as a teacher in a very unique and important position. What is said and done in the classroom will change a child's perspective forever. You are able to create change in a positive LGBTQ supportive manner, or you can leave things the way they are.
Secondly, each student in this desk is already going to have developed lenses through which they see the world. You will have students with prejudice and bias. However, it is your job to find a way to let them participate in discussion without being offensive.
Remember, your job is to not only be an ally to the LGBTQ community, but also giving other students a chance to have their prejudices corrected and learned.
This requires teachers to balance the need for sensitivity towards students' religious beliefs while simultaneously creating a learning environment that is safe and inclusive for all LGBTQ.
It is also important to lead the discussion in a way that is respectful and does not make others feel uncomfortable. To further this point, it is also key to realize each student is coming from a different life that has been affected by their race, class, sexual orientation, gender, ethnicity, and so on.
All these factors must be considered when organizing a lesson. Be aware of the effects your lesson will have on the students in your classroom, and be prepared for this to not be the case. Teachers should not assume a student will interpret a lesson a way they intended the lesson to be interpreted. It is important to acknowledge that students are coming into the classroom with lenses already developed. They see the world through what they previously know.
One more thing every teacher should be aware of is themselves. It is okay to be uncomfortable with this topic. It is also okay to be unsure of where to begin with this topic in your classroom.
First, try to discover where this discomfort is coming from. Is it from uncertainty regarding how to approach the topic that is not politically controversial? Is it due to uncertainty of how students will respond? Or do you fear the lack of expertise regarding the subject? Once you understand your discomfort, you can work to target and get rid of it.
Here are some tips to try. 1. Realize you do not need to be an expert. It is absolutely okay to answer questions with, I don't know. It is okay for a trial lesson plan to turn out to be a failure. The only thing that matters is what you learn from your mistakes and keep moving forward. 2. You do not need to start with a radical change. Maybe start by just incorporating the word gay into an existing lesson. Begin to build your confidence.
Now that you, as a teacher, are aware of the makeup and needs of the students who make up your class, and of your own comforts and discomforts, let's look closer at how you should build your classroom. To begin, incorporate the topic in your lesson. This seems obvious, but it comes with some things that need to be figured out. Yes, do the obvious incorporation of people who identify as LGBTQ in science, history, literature, music, or whatever subject you teach.
However, it is important to remember you cannot cover all LGBTQ topics in your class because there is simply not enough time. As an educator, you must pick the most relevant topic that will speak the loudest to your students.
Also, lecturing and whole class discussions on specific LGBTQ topics paints a less superficial picture of the LGBTQ experience and history. By showing the students the diversity within the LGBTQ community will make the LGBTQ community look less foreign and scary. This brings us to our second topic, making the lesson relevant. Shaping the lesson back to the boys and girls in your classroom will demonstrate the importance of the topic you're teaching.
The goal should not be the students naming every important date of LGBTQ events, but should be that one day they will be able to work right beside an individual who identifies as LGBTQ. Having this recognized in lesson plans reflects that sexual orientation and gender identity is relevant in all students' lives. It is not an abstract and foreign thing way out there, but something students will need to know is to how to interact with it every day. Also, most students who either are LGBTQ, know a friend or family member who is as well, tend to feel they're the only one. A great way to bring this awareness inside the classroom is to try beginning your class with a friendly activity. It may commence with a statement such as, close your eyes. Now, raise your hand if you have a significant person in your life who is LGBTQ, whether a family member, a friend, or even yourself. Now, open your eyes. Their eyes will be filled with great surprise because they will have a moment of realization that they are not the only ones who have been faced or have crossed paths with someone in the LGBTQ community.
Also, those who did not feel comfortable enough to raise their hand will feel more comfortable and included. This also starts the discussion off by allowing students to feel comfortable sharing real-life experiences. At the end of the lesson, have your students break into small group discussions and have them write out what they would tell their child if they came out to them.
Next on our list is to make sure our child or student feels comfortable and heard. This also goes towards both student groups who identify as LGBTQ and those who don't. When a student feels uncomfortable, it will be challenging for them to engage in the lesson or even at home. If this is the case, as an educator or parent, make sure students have plenty of opportunities where they can talk to you privately.
One way you can approach this is to provide a box where students can anonymously communicate with you. But it is your obligation as the teacher to respond to whatever the students say. If a student makes it clear that he or she is uncomfortable with how you are approaching the topic, then it is your responsibility as a teacher to change the style of your approach so every student feels included and comfortable. If a student does not want to discuss the topic because he or she does not agree with it, then as their teacher, discuss with them how they can come up with a solution. With this information you have on what they disagree with, work to show how disagreeing with someone's gender identity can negatively affect that person.
Next, make sure you are using correct terms. Avoid generalizations because it is too much to combine lesbian, gay, transgender into one category. All individuals have different experiences.
Also, keep yourself up to date with the terms the LGBT community often uses for themselves.
When it comes to your students, let them take the lead. If a male student opens up to you about his attraction to males, what is he?
If you answered gay, you're wrong. If a student doesn't use the term gay to describe themselves, then he is not gay to you. Do not assume a student wishes on how they wish to be identified. Many students feel very uncomfortable with labels for many reasons. They might find them limiting or simply they're not ready to call themselves whatever term.
Further, as his teacher, you must never share the student's identity with anyone, even to their family. It is their privacy, and they came to only you. It is his or her choice on whom they open up to. Let the students have his or her rightful choice because it is their life. You will betray their trust if you reveal their identity to others whom they wish to not share with. Which is okay. It is your job as a teacher to give your students the time and space to figure out what they need.
Lastly, correct the incorrect.
What is the purpose of going to school?
When a parent sends a student into a science class, they expect the student to return home with knowledge that corrected what they incorrectly thought was true. Why is this not the case for LGBTQ?
Well, most students lack exposure to accurate information about sexual orientation. They get information from their friends and from the media. This time, a student in the classroom is focused on correcting students' beliefs on topics by giving them correct facts and teaching them how to question what they learn so they can avoid believing false ideas. It is the same when it comes to LGBTQ topics.
Failing to address the topic of LGBTQ in the classroom lets down students who identify as LGBTQ and students who do not.
With hard work, one day we will no longer see these things within school walls. Instead, we will have